Very good morning to everyone. Here we will discuss hydrogen sulfide, sulfur compounds. H2S. Its preparation and properties. First we'll start with preparation. We can prepare hydrogen sulfide by using the Gibbs apparatus. A special type of apparatus it is Gibbs apparatus. So in this we will take ferrous sulfide that if we treat with dilute sulfuric acid, we will get hydrogen sulfide. Right. The second preparation method simple by hydrolysis of metal sulfide. Hydrolysis of metal sulfides. Metal sulfides means you can take aluminum sulfide, you can take barium sulfide, or you can take calcium sulfide. These sulfides, if you hydrolyze it, it will give hydrogen sulfide. And these compounds, aluminum, barium, they can give their corresponding hydroxides like aluminum hydroxide. If you take aluminum sulfide, barium can give barium hydroxide, and calcium can give calcium hydroxide. Corresponding hydroxides you will get it. Hydrogen sulfide is here is the product. Next, treatment of antimony sulfide with the concentrated HCl. Concentrated hydrogen chloride HCl also can give hydrogen sulfide. You will get this antimony chloride. These are the few preparation methods of hydrogen sulfide. We can see the properties. Both physical and chemical properties here. First one, it is a colorless gas with a rotten X smell. This is very important point. It is a colorless gas with a rotten egg smell. Rotten egg smell. We have the phosphine rotten fishy smell, but hydrogen sulfide a rotten egg smell. And H2S, it is a weaker acid, but this is a weak dibasic acid. Weak dibasic acid. Means what? It can give two types of salts. It can form H2S can give HS minus and S2 minus anions. So these anions can form corresponding salts like sodium bisulfide and sodium sulfide. Anyhow, sodium bisulfide is an acidic salt here. It can further release H plus ions. Acidic salt. And this is a normal salt. And one more important point here, H2S is a strong reducing agent. Why? Because if you see the sulfur oxidation state here -2, this is the lowest oxidation state of sulfur. Generally, element in lower oxidation state can behave as a strong reducing agent. In higher oxidation state behaves as a strong oxidizing agent. If the oxidation state intermediate, it can act as a both oxidizing reducing. So H2S, a sulfur with -2 oxidation state, that is why it can act as a strong reducing agent. It is a strong reducing agent. Means what? H2S can give sulfur. sulfur -2 will be converted into the sulfur 0 oxidation state. So it will reduce other, it can undergo, itself undergoes oxidation. It will increase the oxidation state -2 to 0 oxidation state. We can see few reactions supported to this reducing behavior like this, the chemical reactions. Hydrogen sulfide, if we treat with the halogens, generally halogens are the good oxidizing agents and this is a reducing agent. Where halogen we can take chlorine or bromine or iodine. It will give hydrogen halide and releases sulfur. This is one reaction. Similarly, some other reactions. Hydrogen sulfide, if we treat with sulfur dioxide, and it releases sulfur. Hydrogen sulfide, if we treat with hydrogen peroxide, we will get water and sulfur. Next, other reaction. So it will reduce ferric chloride to the ferrous chlorides. FeCl3 will be converted into the FeCl2 and releases sulfur. Some other reactions here. H2S, if we treat with sulfuric acid, give you water, sulfur dioxide and sulfur. Similarly, H2S, if we treat with nitric acid, so we will get water. In place of sulfur dioxide, we will get nitrogen dioxide, NO2. Take 2 moles here, we will get 2 moles. Treat hydrogen sulfide, oxidizing agent potassium dichromate. In presence of acid, we will get potassium sulfate, chromium sulfate, water and releases sulfur. Similarly, potassium permanganate also, if we treat with hydrogen sulfide, potassium permanganate also good oxidizing agent. Same in presence of acidic medium, sulfuric acid. We will get the products potassium sulfate. Potassium permanganate will be converted into the manganese salts, manganese sulfate, water and as usual sulfur. So these are the few reactions which support the reducing behavior of hydrogen sulfide. And here one more important point we should keep in mind. Mainly this hydrogen sulfide we will use in the qualitative quantitative analysis. To form the sulfide precipitates metals when react with hydrogen sulfide metal ions, they can form corresponding sulfide salts, and that can give them some qualitative information. We can identify some qualitative identification of the group cations, but the application part we can discuss there at the time of qualitative and quantitative analysis. The test for hydrogen sulfide that we can see here. How to test this hydrogen sulfide? Generally, it can turn lead acetate paper to the black. turns lead acetate. Lead acetate means lead acetate paper. It will turns into the black. Why black? Why? Because when you pass hydrogen sulfide to this lead acetate paper, it will form lead sulfide. And this lead sulfide is a black in color, and this black color confirms that the gas is hydrogen sulfide. Similarly, instead of lead acetate, if we take cadmium acetate, in place of lead acetate, if you take cadmium acetate, again if you pass hydrogen sulfide, it will form yellow color precipitate, or yellow color means the paper will become into yellow color. The yellow color is due to the formation of cadmium sulfide. It will form the cadmium sulfide. And apart from this, one more test. Just you take sodium nitroprusside. Test with the sodium nitroprusside. This is sodium nitroprusside, Na2Fe CN5N. This is called sodium nitroprusside. This compound, if you pass hydrogen sulfide in presence of alkaline medium, in presence of base mean, in alkaline medium, it will convert this sodium nitroprusside into the violet color complex. You will get one violet color complex. Or purple or violet color complex, and formation of this color complex confirm that it is a hydrogen sulfide. So these are the some few tests for the hydrogen sulfide. You should remember. Now we will discuss here oxides of sulfur. Mainly sulfur can form two oxides here. One is the sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. First we will take up sulfur dioxide and preparation and properties of sulfur dioxide. First we will go with the preparation. We can prepare sulfur dioxide direct reaction with oxygen. We will get sulfur dioxide. Apart from this, we will get a smaller amount of sulfur trioxide also. Next, sulfite ion. If you take acidification, you get sulfur dioxide and water. And if you treat ferrous sulfide, FeS2. This is also called fool's gold. FeS2 is called fool's gold. So these sulfides, if you treat with or if you burn in presence of oxygen, just kind of combustion reactions, they release a sulfur dioxide. And this reaction again very important. They'll ask you sometime the N factor of FeS2 or N factor of Fe2O3S2 like that. What is the N factor of FeS2? This part we discussed already. The redox reactions. Reaction is important.
Thanks, sir.
Next, instead of iron sulfide, you can take other sulfides also, like lead sulfide or zinc sulfide. Just if you heat it with oxygen, you will get that sulfur dioxide. Next, if you heat the elemental sulfur with the sulfuric acid, you will get sulfur dioxide. And you treat copper with sulfuric acid. In this case, sulfuric acid acts as a strong oxidizing agent. then it will give sulfur dioxide. You will get copper sulfate. It will oxidize copper to copper sulfate and releases sulfur dioxide. Calcium sulfate. This also, if we treat with coke or carbon, if we heat it at high temperature conditions, we will get sulfur dioxide. So these are the few preparation methods of sulfur dioxide. Next we can see the properties. Properties of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is a colorless gas. But it has some suffocating or burning sulfur smell, with a burning sulfur smell. We can call choking smell or suffocating odor. It is very hard to breathe that smell, burning sulfur smell. It is highly soluble in water. It can form very easily the sulfurous acid. Highly soluble in water.
After burning, what you wrote, sir?
Highly soluble in water. Sulfur dioxide, if it is all in water. And one more important, sulfur dioxide, if you see the oxidation state of sulfur here, +4. +4 means there is an intermediate oxidation state for sulfur. So, and sulfur dioxide can act as both oxidizing agent and reducing agent. Very effectively strong reducing agent here. And oxidizing agent also. Sulfur dioxide can act as both oxidizing and reducing agent. And sulfur dioxide can be identified by using the lime water test. This is very important. Just you take calcium hydroxide, lime water, as like this lime water test of carbon dioxide. Calcium hydroxide. If you pass sulfur dioxide gas to the calcium hydroxide, it will form milky turbidity. White turbidity can be formed. That is due to the formation of calcium sulfide. It is a white color turbidity. And this white color turbidity confirms that it is a sulfur dioxide gas. But the same test we can do with the carbon dioxide also. Carbon dioxide also can give the same type of reaction. It will form white color turbidity, but there it is a calcium carbonate. And further, if you pass sulfur dioxide, and this white color turbidity disappears. That is due to the formation of calcium bisulfate. Calcium bisulfite, this is a colorless. And you will get colorless clean solution. Same carbon dioxide also, if you pass to the white turbidity, you will get colorless solution. Sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide both can give similar type of test, lime water test. Then how can we differentiate carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide? Both are giving same type of test only. But further, sulfur dioxide can act as both oxidizing and reducing agent. And the sulfur dioxide, when you treat with some oxidizing agents like potassium dichromate or potassium permanganate, it can undergo further reactions. It can give the green color residue if you treat with potassium dichromate. That can confirm further with respect to the carbon dioxide. This is very, very important. We will see that confirmation tests for the potassium dichromate or potassium permanganate. We will see some reaction which supports the reducing behavior or reducing nature of sulfur dioxide. Reducing nature first. it can act as a reducing agent. So here it can reduce iron 3 ferric salts to the ferrous salts. Ferric ion, if it treat with sulfur dioxide, we get ferric salt into the ferrous salt. So reduction reaction. And sulfur dioxide is oxidized to the sulfate ion, +4 oxidation state to +6 oxidation state. Similarly, permanganate, if we treat with sulfur dioxide, we will get here manganese salts. Manganese +7 oxidation state to +2 oxidation state, and we will get sulfur dioxide is converted to sulfate again as usual. This reaction, from this we can write. So this permanganate is converted into the manganese salt. This reaction cannot proceed to the carbon dioxide. If they carbon dioxide, there is no reaction, but sulfur dioxide can proceed. So we can differentiate both carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide by this reaction. Similarly, potassium dichromate also strong oxidizing agent. If we treat with sulfur dioxide in presence of acidic media, we will get chromium sulfate. This is a green color residue, we will get it. Potassium sulfate and water. It is also, we can take as a confirmation test. Next, potassium iodate, KiO3, if we treat with sulfur dioxide, it will give iodine, potassium bisulfate and sulfuric acid. Similarly, if we treat with the chlorine, chlorine also strong oxidizing agent. If we treat with the sulfur dioxide, we get HCl. These are the few reactions which support the reducing nature of sulfur dioxide. Next, we will see few reactions which supports oxidizing nature of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide, if we treat with hydrogen sulfide, just now we have discussed this reaction. We will get sulfur dioxide is reduced to the sulfur. It oxidizes other, it itself undergoes a reduction. H2S anyhow, this is a reducing agent here. So ultimately sulfur dioxide is the oxidizing agent. Sulfur dioxide, if we treat with magnesium, it will oxidize magnesium to the magnesium oxide. You will get magnesium sulfide. Sulfur dioxide, if we treat with iron, you get iron oxide plus iron sulfide. In sulfur dioxide, if we treat with carbon monoxide, it will oxidize carbon monoxide to carbon dioxide and releases sulfur. Next, sulfur dioxide, if we treat with stannous chloride, SnCl2 in presence of HCl, it will oxidize SnCl2 to SnCl4, stannous to the stannic chloride.
సార్ అక్కడ 3SO2 నా సార్ రైట్.
Apart from this, some addition reactions. Sulfur dioxide, if you treat with the chlorine, directly we will get SO2Cl. There is a sulfuryl chloride. And SO2, if we treat with phosphorus pentachloride PCl5, we get a thionyl chloride SOCl2 plus POCl3. Next, one more important reaction about sulfur dioxide is the bleaching action. This is very, very important. Bleaching action of sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide can show the bleaching property, but the bleaching property here is due to the reducing nature of sulfur dioxide. We know that sulfur dioxide can act as both oxidizing and reducing agent, but in this case, in case of sulfur dioxide, the bleaching action is due to the reducing behavior. Most of the cases, means in case of chlorine or in case of ozone, we can see the bleaching action is due to the oxidation behavior or oxidizing nature of chlorine or oxidizing nature of ozone or oxidizing nature of bleaching powder. They can show the bleaching action due to their oxidizing nature. But sulfur dioxide can show the bleaching nature due to its reducing behavior. This point we should keep in mind. How it is means, here sulfur dioxide, if you treat with the water, again this is in aqueous media only, moist condition. But whereas the ozone can show the bleaching action in dry condition, no need to take water. Ozone can give directly, ozone can give O2 plus oxygen. This nascent oxygen is responsible for the bleaching action. Only dry ozone we can take. But sulfur dioxide, we require this moist condition. It will form sulfuric acid and releases nascent hydrogen. And this nascent hydrogen is responsible for the bleaching action. This is a nascent hydrogen. So if you take colored matter, or organic color matter, that if we treat with this hydrogen, nascent hydrogen, highly reactive in nature, which will convert this colored matter into the colorless matter. And this is called bleaching action, but bleaching action is through the hydrogen. Hydrogen involved means this reaction is called reduction. So hence we can say that the bleaching action is due to the reducing nature of sulfur dioxide. And one more important point also we should keep in mind here. Sulfur dioxide can act as a temporary bleaching agent. It is not a permanent bleaching agent. Whereas ozone, chlorine, they are the permanent bleaching agents, but this is temporary. Why? Because this colorless matter, when it come in contact with atmospheric air, which containing mainly oxygen, oxygen also oxidize. This is a reduction reaction, and backward reaction is the oxidation reaction. It can be oxidized in presence of ozone, and it will give again colored matter. So this is temporary only. The bleaching action is temporary. These 2 points are very, very important. One is the bleaching action is due to its reducing behavior. The bleaching action of sulfur dioxide is due to its reducing behavior or reducing nature. And second one, it is temporary effect. The bleaching action is temporary. Now we will see the structure of sulfur dioxide. It is also very important. In case of sulfur dioxide, sulfur is a central atom it will form two double bonds with two oxygens, and it carries one lone pair. So overall 2 sigma bonds, 1 lone pair. We know that pi bond will not involve in hybridization. 2 plus 1, 3. So sp2 hybridization. sp2 hybridization with 1 lone pair means it should be angular. We can say it is angular shape or bent shape or V shape, some non-linear shape, we can call it. This is important point about the structure. Now see, we have 2 pi bonds here. It is having 2 pi bonds, and out of these 2 pi bonds, they'll ask the nature of these pi bonds. Very, very important. In that, one is p pi bond, and one is p pi d pi bond. This we discussed at the time of chemical bonding, right? Out of sulfur dioxide, 2 pi bonds. One is the p pi and one is the p pi d pi. It is very, very important. How to identify this? They should take the sulfur central atom, its electronic configuration. What is electronic configuration? You can take neon valency shell configuration, 3s2, 3p4, and the third period we have the empty orbital 3d also, 3d0. And now sulfur is bonding with 2 oxygens, means 4 electrons are in bond formation. This is the orbital diagram, 3s2, 3p3 and 3d. Here 2 electrons, here 4 electrons, and here 6. But for bond formation, how many electrons we required? 4 unpaired electrons are required. Why? Because 4 bonds are there, 2 sigma 2 pi bonds, but we have only 2 unpaired electrons in the ground state. So then one of the electron from the p orbital, it will excite to the d subshell. Then the excited state electronic configuration now will become as this is the excited state electronic configuration. This is a 3p, this is 3s, now 3d. 4 electrons are there. We have the 2 oxygens, oxygen 1 and oxygen 2. Let's take 1 and 2. We know that oxygen, again similar configuration, each oxygen it has 2 electrons, unpaired electrons here, 2 electrons, nothing but 2 single electrons. And this single electron and this electron, first they will form one sigma bond. Similarly, second oxygen electron and this electron, it will form sigma bond. First sigma bond will be formed after the formation of sigma bond, pi bond. So these 2 electrons over. In the next case, one more electron in the oxygen, it will make a pi bond with this p electron. What is the bond here? This is the 2p electron, 2p4 configuration. P electron and p electrons, they are forming pi bond. So hence it is the p pi bond between the pp orbitals overlapping. And the second oxygen, this electron and this electron. Now the orbital overlapping here, p orbital of oxygen, and this is the d orbital of sulfur, and they will form the pi bond, and this bond is called p pi and d pi. P pi d pi nothing but the orbital overlapping here, p orbital, p orbital, p orbital, d orbital, p orbital in oxygen and d orbital in sulfur. So one p pi, one p pi d pi. You should keep in this point, very, very important. Next, uses of sulfur dioxide, where we will use mainly in petroleum refining process, refining of petroleum. We can use this as an anti-chlor. Anti-chlor nothing but a removal of chlorine, excess chlorine. And also we can use this as a disinfectant. Anti-chlor and disinfectant, and also we can use this as a preservative. These few applications of sulfur dioxide. So now we will see one more oxide of sulfur, sulfur trioxide. As usual, again preparation. We can prepare sulfur trioxide by treating sulfuric acid with the P4O10. What is the P4O10? P4O10 nature is a strong dehydrating agent. So it will remove the water from sulfuric acid. If you remove water from sulfuric acid, you will get its anhydride. What is the anhydride of sulfuric acid? Sulfur trioxide, we will get it. Apart from that, it can absorb water and form that metaphosphoric acid. Next, sulfur dioxide, if you treat with oxygen in presence of the catalyst P2O5, you will get sulfur trioxide. This reaction also we will discuss later in the preparation of sulfuric acid. This is one of the steps. It's a very important step also. There is exothermic reaction. Each and every point we will discuss later about this. Next, simple decomposition of ferric sulfate. If you decompose it, you will get sulfur trioxide. So these are the few reactions of preparations. Next, properties. And if you see the properties, sulfur trioxide is a gas, but in solid state it exists in the three distinct forms. So at room temperature, SO3 exists as a solid, and the solid is in three distinct forms. It exists is like three distinct forms at room temperature. They are like alpha form, means alpha SO3, and beta form, beta SO3, and gamma form, gamma SO3. At room temperature, sulfur trioxide is a solid, then it can exist in the three different forms: alpha SO3, beta SO3, and gamma SO3. And this is very important here. Alpha and beta both can exist in the polymeric chain type. The structure of alpha SO3 and beta SO3, they are polymeric chains. And whereas gamma SO3, it exists as the cyclic trimer. Exists as cyclic trimer. So these structures are very important here. Let us see, in case of alpha and beta forms, they will exist like this, polymeric chains. Sulfur, oxygen, sulfur linkage. Sorry, this is here, oxygen bond should be there. Sulfur, oxygen, sulfur linkage. Again oxygen. So like this, the structure can extend. So both alpha and beta forms, these are. But whereas the gamma form, it will exist like cyclic trimer, is SO3S. SO3-3, the trimer form. The structure of trimer form is like this. This again it will combine with the other two sulfurs. So this is the structure of gamma form. This structure is very important. Gamma form is very important at room temperature. Cyclic trimer. Sometimes they'll ask the question, how many SO-S linkages are there, how many SO linkages are there, how many double bonds are there, how many single bonds are there. You should remember, we have 3 SO-S linkages, remaining are SO linkages. Gamma form of sulfur trioxide. But if you see the gaseous sulfur trioxide, these are the solid form, and gaseous sulfur trioxide. This is also very important. gaseous sulfur trioxide structure is like this. SO3. The sulfur is a central atom. It can undergo sp2 hybridization. sp2 hybridization with 3 sigma bonds and 3 pi bonds. 3 sigma bonds nothing but trigonal planar. It is a perfect trigonal planar structure. Again the same question will repeat here. Here 3 pi bonds are there. Out of these 3 pi bonds, how many p pi bonds and how many p pi d pi bonds? Again you can see the electronic configuration. Sulfur, just now we have discussed that. 3s2, 3p4, 3d0. But see here sulfur forming 6 bonds means it required 6 electrons. This electron will excite into the D cell 4 electrons. Again this S electron also will excite into the D subshell. Why? Because total we required 6 unpaired electrons. So in second excited state, in case of sulfur dioxide, first excited state is enough, 1 electron will excite, but here 2 electrons will excite. And this is electronic configuration after second excited state. 3d2, 3p3 and this is 3s1 configuration. Now we have 3 oxygens. Let us take oxygen 1, oxygen 2 and oxygen 3. They are having 1 electron in p subshell. This is a p4 configuration, 2 electrons. It also having 2 electrons, it also having 2 electrons. 1 electron of this p orbital and s orbital. They will form sigma bond. Again second oxygen, this electron and this electron, they will overlap, form sigma bond, and third oxygen, this electron and this electron, they will form sigma. Or sigma bond can be formed between sulfur and oxygen, 1 sigma bond. And the next electron, this electron, it will form pi bond. How many electrons left here? 3 more electrons are there, and it will form a pi bond with this orbital. Here p orbital and sulfur also p orbital. p orbital can form 1 pi bond. This is p pi bond. Second oxygen, here no more electrons left for overlapping. Now we have the d electrons. This is p pi, d pi. Similarly, this p orbital and d orbital, it can form pi bond, and this is also p pi and d pi. Now see overall 3 pi bonds. Out of 3 pi bonds, 1 is the p pi bond, and the remaining 2 are p pi d pi bonds. This is also very important, you should remember. This is for oxygen and this is for sulfur. Sulfur orbital, oxygen orbitals. So 2 structures, gaseous sulfur triaxide structure and the gamma form of sulfur triaxide, cyclic trimer. These 2 structures are very important for sulfur triaxide. And next, oxyacids of sulfur, that we will see in the next class. So I will stop the class.